All right, are you good?
Yep.
All right, we're good. Here we go. Ready? Okay, so we're going to start lesson number 2 today. I want to talk about the difference between heat and temperature, okay? And we talked a little bit about it last class when we were identifying the temperatures that were found at Tim Hortons. Everybody remembers that? Okay? So when we talked about heat, what were we talking about when it came towards Tim Hortons? What were we talking about with that? How hot something is. When we look at the definition of heat, the definition of heat says it's the transfer of kinetic energy from one object to another. So when you go and you touch an element on a stove, you can feel that there's heat or it's hot, right? And that's what we're looking at. But the difference between heat and temperature is, temperature would be how we measure something. So if I went and touched the element, I could put a thermometer up to it, or stoves actually have the actual temperature attached to them. We would then take the temperature of that to see actually how hot or how much heat is in it, okay? So kinetic energy is, when we think of kinesthetics, kinetic actually means movement, okay? So when we're talking about kinetic energy, we're actually talking about movement of particles. We're going to spend a lot of time in this unit talking about particles themselves, okay? And how they make things either hotter or colder. So our two definitions of heat and temperature is the transfer of kinetic energy from one to another, from one thing to another is heat. And then temperature is the measure of that kinetic energy. Okay, so this is kind of how it feels. This is kind of how it measures. Okay, does that make sense? When we talk about qualitative and quantitative, we kind of talked about those with Miss Malcolm on the first lesson, lesson number 1. Qualitative is something that we feel, okay, so that would be heat, and quantitative is something that we measure, which would be temperature, okay? Just to move down the heat section, heat is usually causing some kind of change. So when there's a fire, it's causing change. When we light a match, it's causing change. When we have a blow dryer and put it on our hair, it's causing change. Are you okay, Mrs. Martin?
Yep.
What's that? Just stop it for a second.